Oh, what's cracking, everybody? So that synced up perfectly. We are live on Instagram and YouTube. Welcome, everybody. It is a day one water fast update from your boy Peter from Full Spectrum Performance. Now, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling ecstatic. This day one, honestly, if you water fast a lot, it's nothing for you. But for myself, I'm really loving it. I've been really fiending for a water fast so this day is like it's been very blissful, if that's a way to put it. It's been very exciting. I've had so much energy all day. Got a really good workout in, full lifting. Um, and really, I just want to give you guys some insights and general information, what's going to be happening to your body physically during these first few days, what's going to be happening more so spiritually, those intangible things, what can be happening with the inner environment, and then realistically, what the water fast is going to do for you, what problems it's going to heal, and how you can kind of implement this practice weekly to really gain a lot of benefits from it. So let's go into the general overview of what's happening to the body. Oh my gosh, the table's moving. But what's happening to the body on this first day of water fasting? And primarily, nothing much. It's going to be operating like normal for the most part. Now, this is because your body's going to be processing and utilizing the food from the previous few days. Now, depending on what you've been eating, it can be a few days. If you've been eating a lot more whole foods and you've been preparing, like suggested, and doing more of the vegan, fruitarian, vegetarian lifestyle before, then you may really just be using the food and the energy from yesterday's food. Again, it really just depends on what you're eating and how quickly it processed and got through your body. But for everyone, the coolest thing to understand is that this first day, and technically tomorrow as well, your body's going to be fine. Like, your body's physically absolutely okay. If you've never fasted before, you're not going to die. It's nothing can seriously medically happen to you that's very bad unless you have some type of condition, you're on some type of medication. The most important thing that I'm going to talk about now is actually going to be that last part, medication. If you're on medication during a water fast, really speak with your doctor, because when you're not eating, you got to understand that your pills and the things that you're made in terms of the pharmaceutical companies, they're designed so you're actually, ingesting some type of food. So some people may notice that the effects of their medication might be amplified when you don't eat. Now, again, with this first day, you really shouldn't be feeling it too much. Second day, you shouldn't really be feeling it too much. But once ketosis kicks in and you're on that third, fourth day, you really do. I always recommend speak with a physician before you do any type of water fasting, if you haven't done anything like that before. Now, I'm just giving you a warning right now. If you see me jump or kind of go crazy, I have my cat outside and there are birds around the feeder. So if you see me do anything wild, it's because I'm trying to save the birds. Uh, but the most important thing to think about is when you're trying to utilize a water fast, you need to understand some people may want to go off their medication. Now, the food aspect has a thing, but the most important thing to understand is that the point of a water fast is to kind of get a reset. So if you're taking like anti-inflammatories and things like that, you probably don't need to worry too much. Again, I'm not your doctor. Speak with your doctor. Show them the studies. Do some research. I'll be trying to post some of the different information that you guys can utilize in the descriptions. So I'll have to look into some of those things for you for early offset with the medication stuff. But to get back into it, the rest of the stuff with the body today is cake. Now, you really should just be focusing on drinking water. If you feel that first hunger, you might automatically start to notice now that oh, I'm actually just really parched. I'm starting to get a little thirsty. So this next effect of the body really depends on where you're at in terms of your own physical health and your own nutritional prowess. So if you're eating really, really junk, like crappy food, I know Halloween was yesterday. A lot of you probably binged on candy. But if you're eating all those types of food, guarantee you this first day is going to be incredibly rough for the body because it's used to just running off of junk, and it's primarily not used to not eating all the time. Now, that may sound weird, and I don't want that to sound offensive, but you got to understand your body takes a few hours to process food. Now, it takes like 3 hours for my body to get essentially in and out when I'm eating fruit and more of like the fruitarian, frugivore diet. But the thing about, I guess you could say, the more junk food, processed food lifestyle is that sits in your stomach for a long time. Now, I'm telling you, like fruit, veggies, 3 hours in and out. Now, I personally notice when I eat breads, when I have when I eat out, have processed foods, animal products and things like that, it may be the next day. You know, it could be literally processing through your system 16 hours, 24 hours. Because again, you got to understand, with the processed foods, a lot of the stuff that we're getting are legit chemicals and toxins used for other products to help them not go bad. Like, for example, I always like to use the old chemical that was used for yoga mats to make them extra springy. That was also used for Subway's bread for the longest time. And I personally would always pass out after I would eat Subway. And I was like, why would I do that? And then when this got revealed years later, I was like, that's definitely it. So you have to understand that your body's going to start changing things. Now, you may honestly be going through more withdrawal symptoms if you eat a lot of processed sugars. And hate to break it to you, you got to just deal with it. It's, again, physically, these first 2 days, you're fine. You're absolutely okay. Now, the mind and the body in this egoic sense may be losing its mind at this point. And that kind of leads into the more of the spiritual stuff with this first day, and especially these first few days. The most important thing to think about is that it just depends on who you are. If you're just like ironclad willpower and you just tell the body to stop whining, it'll be quiet. It'll be a cool experience. You'll start to just be more aligned with your spirit. You'll start to feel more of the energy from source, the creator, whatever you want to call it. You'll start to pick up on that. You'll start to literally feel yourself. You'll start to feel other people. And again, this is where it could be a little bit different. If you don't fast, if you haven't fasted, this could be kind of a struggle day, especially around the times of when your body's used to eating. And again, the most important thing that I want you to understand is that in this process, you're really forcing a detachment or a disconnect between the identification of being a body to the observer of it, to your consciousness, that which we experience and feel as me and I and self. Now, the important thing to think about is if you're super identified with this body and you don't have much space built up, then everything that is happening to the body, it's going to feel like it's happening to you. It's going to be perceived like, oh my gosh, my stomach is on fire, my pain's this. But you have to understand that think of it like a bratty child or a spoiled child. When a kid is used to getting what they want, they'll throw a fuss, right? If you tell them no, they're probably going to throw an even more fuss until they kind of like and cry themselves out or whine themselves out. Or if you have OG parents like myself, it's just, do you think that's going to get you anything? That's like even more of a no in a whole lot more intense ways than that. But it's one of the things where when you're thinking about the spiritual aspect of a water fast, you're really burning through a lot of karma, or in terms of your karmic debt. Clarify that for some people. You're getting rid of a lot of the negative things about your being automatically. Now, one thing about this is that you're not consuming the energies and the past traumas and experiences, the food you're eating. You're just living off more of your life source, your eternal energy. And then your body's living off of prana, the energy around you. And that's where you'll start to see more of a transition the more you fast. But again, if you're not fasting, like that identification is still really, really strong. So you need to understand that it's going to be loudest in terms of that feedback when you're about to eat lunch, or when you should be eating lunch, when you should be eating dinner. Whenever you see something that you really, really want to eat because you used to just munch on it all the time. And the thing for you to understand is that your body is, again, it's going to start to want to do its own thing, because for your entire life up until this fast, for the most part, you have let it. Whenever there's been a craving, you've let it do it. Whenever there's this, there's so many examples of when we've let the body do what it wants because we've essentially caved into those temptations. Now, in terms of the spiritual switch for this day, the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is start talking to yourself differently. And it may sound weird at first, but I'm very, very serious when I say this. This is one of the main tools that I used to, like, years ago, to really detach from the intimacy, the allure, the pull that certain thoughts and emotions and physical sensations have. And for example, instead of talking to your thoughts, or communicating with yourself like, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm hungry, I'm that, my stomach hurts, this, I sense the body wants food. I see that the body is angry with me. Or when, if you're getting in that point where you're hangry and you have an emotion come up or you have a sensation come up, question it. Okay, is that really a concern? Is that really a problem? Or is this more so because the body wants food? It's again, it's pattern recognition. It's all about pattern recognition. You are your own teacher and student. You need to be the one that determines, okay, well, that's an old pattern. That's a thought. That's a cycle. Because the most important part about this is that, if you want to think about your wheels been spinning, essentially identifying and getting caught up in the game of personhood, Waterfast stop that. That's the benefit of them. That's the purpose of fasting. Again, because it naturally creates space. When we eat, it creates that space. And I shouldn't say that. When we eat and we're like overly gluttonous about it, when we're like, and you're like getting really into it, that's a little too attached to your food. And again, water fasting is the process of building space through stopping all the kind of matter that's coming in, the dense physical matter, I should say. And when you do this, you're cutting off the food source, you're cutting off the food supply for the body. And this is where it is important for me to express more of the energetic components of this, because when you understand what food represents for the body energetically, it helps you understand what's happening to you experientially. So when we eat, it's called, you can say we're getting our fire chi, our fire energy from it, our fire prana. And one of the things you need to understand about this is it's kind of like that symbol that we've all seen, the snake eating its own tail. That's one of the aspects about life. Life begets life. Life lives off of life. Nothing out here can be if it's not eating or consuming something outside of itself. And that's one of the things about trees, bugs, everything does it. Everything, like look at Animal Planet when the fox eats the rabbit, it's life. It's just the circle of life. Now, because of that, you need to understand that food and matter, when it's broken down, you can kind of think about it almost like a little chemical reaction, right? Heat produces heat. You strip away atoms and things. It gives you ATP, energy, all that stuff. Every reaction causes something, So we can call this heat, fire, energy, because when we break it down, we're literally pulling the chemicals apart, building our own things, and getting that sustenance from it. So in the very essence of this, when your body is too, I guess we could say, we'll express it like this. If it's too fire, right? If you eat too much food, so much stuff, you're burning yourself. Water, for most people, at least in this modern day, you're cooling down the effects of eating so much when you water fast. And what happens is when you're eating so much, when you're constantly filling up that body, it's just amping it up with more and more and more and more and more and more energy. Now, physically, we know this because the body says, oh, too much energy, stored as fat, and then you get fat. But karmically, but energetically, when we consume a ton of food, you're taking on everything about that being that you just consumed. So that's something you need to recognize. So when I say things like you're not taking on the trauma or the past experiences of that whatever being you ate, look at factory farming versus an organic farm. If you eat a little, a appropriate portion size of meat, which is your palm or less, for those of you that don't know, you have to think, how much better of a life did that factory farm cow receive versus the one that grew up on a little farm? Ask that yourself and look at it. So you can see that from factory farming, it's going to be a lot more suffering. It's going to be a lot more pain. It's going to be a lot more heightened emotions. You take that on. Now, if you're really diving into this water fast and committing to yourself on this opportunity to transform your life fully, you'll notice like that emotions start to drop, sensations start to drop. And you can notice that in the first day. And that's one of the reasons why I'm speaking on it now. Because if you don't eat sugar, if you don't eat dairy, you're not really not eating anything, right? You're just drinking water. See that as a purifying the water energy, right? You're purifying yourself. You're putting out that fire. And the more and more you process that and expel all those energies and things that are kind of caught up in your GI tract, you're going to be more balanced. living in better harmony. And that's the point of really utilizing the water fast to heal. And again, it's not just the physical stuff that's going to heal. It's going to heal you energetically. You're going to heal some wounds, some trauma. And because of this, a lot more opportunity is going to open up. You may now have the calm and clarity to recognize something and liberate yourself, to really let the body and life play its own process out. So when you live and you're not so caught up in, in consumption, and you're not so invested in filling your own desires, you may observe others more. You may be able to see the patterns of others that express and reflect natures of your own that you want to work on. And again, I can't really say that this is going to happen for you, because again, you're the director of this film. You're the director of your own experience and your own life. If you are whining and dwelling and really like hating the fact that you're not eating, A, it's showing that you're more aligned with the body and the thoughts internally. So stop it. And secondly, B, it's showing that ultimately you're choosing to dwell. That's fundamentally what it's showing. When you have things repeating like that over the time, you're choosing this. You're choosing to be negative about it rather than embracing the reality. You're choosing to whine and complain versus celebrating this challenge, legit celebrating this challenge, being like, hell yeah, I can do this. I can prove to myself I can do more than that. And that's the most important part about Waterfast, is that it's like, it's not only a willpower boost, it's just going to transform the way you see yourself. And there's nothing more humbling and rewarding than seeing your potential play out before your eyes, especially when you listen to those thoughts of doubt and negativity. So I really encourage you to jump on board with this fast. So what? You may have missed today. Start tomorrow. I'm going to be breaking my fast November 8th with my first food. So you still got a little bit, you still got some time. But the coolest thing that I really want to show you and express to you is Waterfast is the exit. It's the way out. It's the, if you think about your life stuck in these cycles of pain, of gaining weight, crash dieting, up and downs, Waterfast serves as an opportunity to reset things, to get off that road and to really guide and steer your ship wherever you want. But the thing is, this exit operates kind of like a rotary or a roundabout for you Westerners. And it's the fact that if you don't change what you're doing, you're just going to get sent right back on that road. And you're not going to actually fulfill yourself. You're not actually going to change your life. You're just going to go right back into the same overweight, unhealthy lifestyles. And yeah, it may take like 3-4 weeks for it to get back, but it's going to come back pretty quick. Now, if you utilize the water fast to change the way you eat, become a vegetarian, become a vegan, fruitarian, or maybe you'll spiritually level up to the point where you're a breatharian. It doesn't matter. Your life is what you want to do. That's the coolest thing about it. We're each different, we're each unique, and we can create our life how we see fit. But understand that your inner environment manifests the external world. If you identify with the body, you will suffer as the body. If you come to recognize and identify as source, what we are, an eternal being, then this life becomes a playground. It becomes the dream it is, the play it is, and an experience that you can embrace and not live filled with tension and fear. So I hope that you can grace yourself with the experience of knowing such things. And if I sound hokey, I sound crazy to you, prove me wrong, but actually try to prove it. Just don't negate something by your failure. Try to understand life on these different levels. Try to see life on these different levels and see how much it transforms you and opens up life. Because the way I like to express awakening in this process of enlightenment or leveling up, it's a continual unfoldment and transcending. But the cool thing is, you live in the same world called life, but it's like you unlocked a few different maps. And although everyone else is in the same reality, You see some different things that others can't. You feel things that others can't, but they're very real. And more importantly, they validate themselves when you act on them, when you see and feel people's energies off, when you can feel and interpret and really sense their thoughts, their intentions. You can do some really spooky shit. I mean, excuse the language, but yo, like, my wife and I play psychic games. It's pretty fun, like little drawing activities. Maybe I'll do a little video on that so you can play with your partners or friends. But those that you have deep connections with, you start to have those moments like, hey, you want to do that? And they'll be like, I was legitimately just thinking about that. Or vice versa, where you're thinking of something and, like, for example, the coolest thing happened the other night where I was cooking something. I needed a spoon. I needed a spatula to wipe something down. And all I was thinking of was just like that fucking blue spatula. It's like just out of reach. And my wife was like, oh, you need the spatula? So it's a two-way street. We're receivers. We also emit, right? You're a conductor and a receiver, if you want to think about it like that. So when you really unfold things, it really doesn't matter about your partner as much. In terms of my spiritual development, I've been on this path a lot longer than my spouse. But the coolest thing to think about with this is she's still experiencing these things. It's the feedback that we can both give to each other because we're open on different levels than just mental. We're open on levels of the heart, considering we've known each other so long. We're close. But the coolest thing for yourself is you can do these types of things with your friends, your family. You can start to play different games. And more importantly, if you water fast and you're joining me on this journey, you're going to start to realize your superpowers as the days progress. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into it because you got to have something to check out later. But all I'll say is this: when you are fasting, and when all the internal stuff drops away and reveals what's always present and what that is and what you thought things were, it's going to blow your mind. But I don't really want to say blow your mind. You're going to transcend the mind. I'll leave that. That's a good note to leave on. Well, it's been Peter from Full Spectrum Performance. I wish you a happy Friday. That's right, it's Friday. More importantly, I love you. Have a great day. Have a great month. Make it a great life. Enjoy me on these next few days of water fasting. Maybe we'll try to get a little meditation in this weekend. Who knows? All right. Bye, everyone. Peace. Oh, hey.